If we could get roll call, please.
Mayor Woodfield,
Here.
Mayor Murphy,
Here.
Mayor Valenzuela,
Here.
General Maxwell,
Here.
and Mayor Post.
Here. Also, Chairman
Hernandez. Right.
Oh.
So we have six of 9 present currently. If you please stand and we'll have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was a nice about face, Board Member Maxwell. He has not forgotten. I move to go into executive session for the 3 items listed on the agenda, seconded by Board Member Post. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We'll go into executive session.
Huh? Well.
Test, check 1, 2. Still an echo.
You sound good online though. I can't hear an echo.
Yeah, there's an echo again in the room.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
How did they go? Good. Busy. Good. So that person. No, beautiful. Summer on. Yes. Okay. Whatever. It's a cash recess. Maybe. I don't know if it was breaking. Oh, yeah. And then it gets worse when they get that. They're all in the areas. There. Right. That's beauty. Right. So they're magic and there's not patients. So we'll start operating something over.
Usually 65 for the
Yeah. Yeah. You may not. I don't want. So, that's. Ain't that. Risky for him. It's. It is. What's why? So. But anyway, the ones.
Regis, it's still alive. And you they're fantastic. Yeah, staying out. You still have. I just here else. You talking to the mic.
Test, audio check.
You're good online.
Yeah, but you have to keep the conference room on, because for some reason when the Zoom is muted, it's fine. But once we unmute the Zoom is when the echo starts.
Yes, I was just letting them know to watch conversation.
Yes,
Are you still echoing in the room?
yes, we're still a little echoey in the room.
Okay, you're good online.
Thank you.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
Oh, they did. Well, I guess it's still.
Testing 1, 2, 3. This is a sound check. 1, 2, 3.
I'm not saying. Population. See if that looks like really closely aligned. The check. So the video and both has this one.
Don't try it again.
Go ahead and try.
Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's just the normal speaker sound, right? Or is there an echo?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
You guys sound great online in the room.
So the undefined step is what are we doing? Cost, which just the cost, which already find out. You know, like the group this one gets their access from jurisdiction for the contract. And they just say, well, it's 3% more. They've actually crunched those costs, but somewhere probably because due to the party destruction. So my premise that if we isolate that middle chunk that is inflationary driven as the Delta model. Yes, that would be small. So then that chunk would be. That would be for the two costs. Rather than being it's one method. The alternative would be to just present that this is free capital, in whatever lag time. That's the stuff that's not kind of inflation. The dollars that are directly inflation. And then it very easy to say we have why we think these should go adjustments that they do. I see. It's basically kind of like saying, hey, these dollars to be assigned. Then we just say, so those are like do that. Same goods, more expensive. Yeah. Then what's left over is. I think that's really that's like not too small. It's just whether or not those do get criticized, whether or not for another, the very least will have that discussed. That's where I think the problem is.
Portion of it.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
You guys sound good online.
It still sounds good online.
Yes, you're good online.
Awesome. Thank you.
No. You're really, I think you want to do the partial sounds. It's not open. Same. These are all. Okay, Jeff, do you want us to tell this one too?
Mayor Valenzuela. Get this.
We're going to resume the regular RTA board meeting. We have all board members present, and we're going to go to item 4, Mr. Ortega.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would look for some direction, as I've mentioned to you before, and I mentioned some of the materials that I provided.
Yes. There's an echo. I know they've been trying to resolve that echo. It clearly has not been resolved. So yeah, live with it.
I'll just talk like this. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So as I mentioned to you in some of the materials and some of the conversations that we've had, I really believe there's ways and opportunities for us to streamline some of the project delivery, and right-of-way acquisition is one. As I mentioned to you in the materials, we do have authority as the RTA to own property and acquire property. We do not have the authority to condemn property, so we would take advantage of our partnerships with you as jurisdictional partners. But at this point, I am recommending that we proceed with assisting in the right-of-way acquisition along the Grant Road corridor. As you recall, at a previous meeting, I did give authorization to begin the acquisition process on that, and I'd like authorization from the board at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. And so you're moving on the motion to authorize the RTA executive director and staff to negotiate for the acquisition of real property required for the Grant Road project located along Grant Road between Fremont Avenue to Sparkman Boulevard in the best interest of RTA, with any negotiated acquisitions to be brought before the board for final approval.
That's exactly what I said.
And that's what I seconded.
That's what I thought I heard. I thought I'd just repeat it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the clarity.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
obviously,
Board Member
obviously I support this, and if in a future agenda, if you could bring back maybe a more blanket authority as these projects move forward, especially because we have a lot of time in between our meetings. I'd like to have that added to a future agenda.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Murphy, we will do that at the December RTA board meeting. Okay, so there's a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it 9-0. We'll go to call to audience. Mr. Ledford.
Mr. Chair, there are no speakers at this time.
Thank you. We'll go to item 6, meeting summary approvals. I move to approve the following meeting summaries as presented: July 31st, 2025, regular meeting; August 15th, 2025, special meeting; August 25th, 2025, special meeting. Seconded by Board Member Maxwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it 9-0. We'll go to item 7, which is the consent agenda items. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are 3 items that are before you. Intergovernmental agreements. These are basically following up on the elections. The election that you all had recommended to the Board of Supervisors. We have to establish an IGA or an intergovernmental agreement with them, with both the elections and the recorder's office. And in addition, we have, let's see here, the budget amendment as provided in your materials, and an appointment to the CART Committee, the Citizens Accountability for Regional Transportation Committee. There is a vacancy by Pima County, and there is a recommendation in your board packet to appoint Ana Olivas. That's all, Mr. Chairman. We recommend approval of that.
I move to approve consent agenda items 7A, 7B, and 7C as presented. Seconded by Board Member Hines. Any discussion? I just simply want to say that I believe Ana Oliveras is going to be an incredible addition to the CART committee. So I appreciate Supervisor Hines making that recommendation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. We'll go to item 8 of the regular agenda. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So I had provided a memorandum to you dated September 19th. I apologize for the length, but I wanted to give you an idea of where we're headed and what we're doing with regard to delivery. And my thought there is, quite frankly, to assure, I hate to say it, but irrespective of RTA Next, assure that we have a plan in place for the delivery and completion of RTA 1 of the 2006. I won't go over all of the items. I do want to mention a few things that I think are worthy of at least highlighting. One is we're working on how we organize ourselves internally, and that could be a series of project managers. It could be help with procurement. You already gave me some direction on right-of-way acquisition. Those are all pieces that I think will be important. But understand that these aren't in a vacuum. We aren't going to be doing this just as the staff and be done with it. We will be working with your staff, the jurisdictional partners, to create those systems so that we have something we can point to going forward. A couple of other things, quicker decision making, and that's not just at the staff level, but also escalating issues so they don't fester, and bringing them to you if we need the board to weigh in on something, getting them in front of you in a very quick time frame. The other piece that'll be important is once decisions are made, we live with them. Unless there's some pressing need and there's some reason to revisit, we aren't going to be revisiting decisions that were made. Also, we're going to be pushing hard on the alternative delivery methods, which is the potential for CM at risk. There's also an opportunity for us to look at design build. Now, I will tell you, our alternative delivery methods are oftentimes more expensive. And so what I'll do is bring to you an analysis that says, if we use this delivery method, this is what it means in terms of time, and here's some potential cost implications, but here's the potential savings on the other end of that. We already talked about the right-of-way acquisition, so I won't go into that. Chairman Jose and Supervisor Hines at one of the meetings had mentioned the concern over public engagement, public oversight. That is something that we are honing in on in terms of how that will work going forward. And what we're looking at is a very robust process through the 30% plans. So in that initial planning stage is where we believe that could be an opportunity for feedback and really making sure that the public is understanding and hopefully on board. But once the 30% plans are complete, then we're moving forward. I do want to update you on 2 meetings related to all of this. One is with our counterparts at ADOT. I just recently met with the state engineer and also with the director of project implementation and delivery. And they are eager for us to maybe partner. And so they're going to be looking at how we can partner with them on project delivery, not only right-of-way acquisition and maybe some training, but also how we can take advantage of our existing intergovernmental agreements. That will be important because we can take advantage of their resources. And we would pay for that through an IGA, but still that's a resource that we may not have available right now in our current configuration. So excited about that. Also, I have reached out to the utility companies, and they most of them at this point have committed to meeting so that we are able to have a conversation about how we can partner. And again, making sure that there's clarity on if they have a commitment to the RTA, then what are they willing to do in terms of that partnership on their end? And so they've been excited about having that opportunity, because I'm sure there's pieces that I'm not aware of, but clearly that will be important for us going forward so that we can assure ourselves of some of those timelines. So with that, I gave you that exhaustive memo. You understand that we're working on still a work in progress. We think that as each meeting comes along, I'll give you an update, and then you can see what our progress is on some of these pieces. But that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. There's no action needed on this agenda item, but are there questions for Mr. Ortega? Comments? Board Member Romero?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure that I commended you, Mr. Ortega, for clearly explaining to us and putting it in writing and presenting it to the public. It's a really wonderful difference that the city of Tucson has noticed in terms of the willingness to partner with us. And I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget that the city of Tucson was really struggling to move projects forward. A perfect example was the First Avenue and Grant Road. Because of the previous leadership of the RTA, this project was delayed over a year and a half. And I really appreciate, and all the team really, city manager, our Department of Transportation and Mobility, we all appreciate the additional resources, or the resources that are already there, but you're making available to the jurisdictions, including project management, property acquisition, construction management, communication with ADOT, clear communication with the board. All those things are something that we appreciate, and that the city of Tucson is committed to as well as delivering all RTA 1 projects to the residents of our city. So I just wanted to make sure that we express that on the record.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to item 9, Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would like to draw your attention to the countdown timer behind you. That's RTA Next. So that is March 10th of 2026 at 8 p.m. because that's when we'll know the election results, and that will that gives us clarity of focus right there. So that's why that's there. And there's one in the
that cost us.
but it was about $143 for both of them, and there's 2, and we got them on sale.
66 days.
166 days, 7 hours, 2 minutes, and 45 seconds till 8 p.m. on March 10th. So the first item on the RTA Next is the ballot language. I did present to you and recommend for your consideration the language that's in your packet, which is basically 2 questions. The first question is for the RTA Next plan with the amendment to the 2006 plan. And that's pretty well outlined, thanks to a quick shout out to our counselor. And then the second question is for the RTA Next tax. So it's the actual half-cent sales tax. So that's my recommendation for the ballot language. If you give me direction and you approve that, then we would transmit that to, I almost said Cochise County, to Pima County, and have Pima County process it and get it ready. Their deadline is November 1, but we would get that to them within the week as soon as you give me direction. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So we're going to open up to the board for some direction here. Okay. Board Member Hines.
I'm happy to direct that, but I just wanted to make a clarification for the public in terms of the just the way that the assessment is working. I think that it's important for people to understand that based on the legislative constraints with regard to this type of ballot measure for RTA plan, that we are truncating 3 months of the previous 20-year assessment and starting the next 20-year assessment 3 months early, but there will not be an overlap of 2 half-cent sales taxes for April, May, and June, which I think that there's been some confusion. I've been asked that question a few times. So I just think that the public needs to know that how that's going to happen, and that they are going to dovetail, but they will not be duplicative.
Thank you.
Did you have a?
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's really clear, to have on the ballot, the RT plan, with acts in those two questions. So if there's no more discussion, I'd move the question.
We can certainly take the motion and that won't end discussion necessarily, but there's a motion on the table to approve, seconded by Board Member Hines. I just have a couple of, I think, in terms of our staff that have read the ballot language, some of the comments that came back to us that I'd like to share with the board is that the suggestion of using bullet points consistently for clarity and readability. So as an example, in the current, there's in the introduction, it says there are 6 elements of the comprehensive 20-year RTA next plan, and those are included in that sentence. A suggestion might be the RTA next plan is a 20-year regional transportation plan with 6 elements, and those 6 elements are bulleted versus, again, just for clarity. And so I think that that's a comment that could be used throughout the ballot, again, to just provide clarity and readability. Emphasizing that the 2006 carryover projects as continuous or updates rather than funding again, or just not having any confusion about that these are continuations. Maybe simplifying some of the language or just ensuring. I mean, some of this is familiar to us, but maybe to the layman. So multimodal corridor, perhaps roadway corridors with transit, pedestrian, bicycle improvements as an example. Ensure region-wide inclusivity. So I think currently the motion is limits traffic signal upgrades only to Tucson. I think I'd like to see that open to the region as a whole. And then just short and descriptive paragraphs followed by bullets, as I kind of shared in that first example. So those would be some suggestions.
Mr. Chairman, happy to take those. Thank you. So a couple things. Some of that language is taken directly from the RTA Next plan. And so I'm happy to go back and revise that, but now we're talking about revising the titles of those elements.
Understood.
So, okay. So I'm a little nervous about if we make the change here and not on the plan, then we need to do that.
Yeah. So when I said understood, I understand what, your explanation. So certainly it should be in line with the plan. The language should be in line with the plan. Maybe it's in the pamphlet or something that's.
Happy to do that. As far as the publicity pamphlet, happy to take all of that. The other piece is you mentioned the city of Tucson specifically. That is listed on the plan, and the other jurisdictions are listed as well, but not by name. They are listed, I believe, in one of the sub elements. And so happy to go over that again if you'd like. But I just wanted to assure you that you are covered with that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor say, okay, so this is A or?
This is just A.
Just A. So I move to approve item 9A as presented, or there's already a motion. Okay, excuse me. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The ayes have it 9-0. So we'll go to item B, C, and D, which there are no motions.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, to give you an idea on the timeline for the election, other than the timer, I wanted to make sure we emphasize that. September 25th, you already gave me direction on the ballot language, so that's done, check. November 3rd is when the ballot language and publicity pamphlet are due to the county elections. November 1st, okay, thank you. It's good to have legal counsel close by. So November 1st, I apologize. And the publicity pamphlet will not come back to you. That is something we're just working on. It supports everything that you've been talking about over the last last long time. How's that? And November 14th through December 10th is when that's the period for public arguments for and against the ballot measures submitted to the elections department website. Okay, that's Pima County. So again, that's November 14th is when it opens. December 10th is when it closes. December 4th is when you will meet again, at least at this point. That's the next regular meeting. At that point, we will bring to you the administrative code and the policies, objectives, and procedures document. So that will be the first time that you will see it, but know that your staff has been working. The TMC subcommittee has been putting together the language that will be included. So I know, Mayor Murphy, you had mentioned some things that you had wanted to see in there. I believe all of your comments will be incorporated as best we can in those, but that's December 4th. At that point, I'm expecting if you give us direction on that, we'll present it to you for consideration. Then we now have that, and it will be a public document that we can then show during presentations, et cetera. January 9th is the contract with the county utility. I'm sorry, I'll start that again. That's where we contract with the county for the utilization of their registration, their voters list, basically. It's the registration list. So that's January 9th, and that's with the elections department. January 19th is the final ballot proofs deadline. So that's something that we'll be working with the county on. February 1st is the voter publicity pamphlet mailed to all registered voters in Pima County. So again, that's February 1st. February 9th is the voter registration cutoff. February 11th is when the ballots are mailed to the voters in Pima County. Again, February 11th, all voters will be mailed their ballots. February 28th, last day to request an early ballot. And March 10th is the election. And all those are obviously 2026. Just want to go over those, make sure everybody knew what those were. They're in your packet so that you have that available. If you have any questions, you can let us know. So that was item B, Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Board Member Valenzuela?
Can I get the pamphlet translated into Spanish and about 500 copies for my community?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. That is part of the exercise, and it will be translated, and we will get you 500 copies or more. Happy to do that.
Any other questions, comments? Is there on the September to March stakeholder outreach? I know we've talked about outreach, but is there a schedule that shows meetings and so on and so forth?
Mr.
Looks like.
Mr. Chairman, we actually do have a spreadsheet, pretty exhaustive spreadsheet with every organization you can think of and some we didn't even know existed. But what I would also suggest to you, as I mentioned before, some homework. If you know of areas that or entities or groups that are out there, constituency groups, it doesn't matter where, how small, how big, we'll be there. So if you could let us know, I will get you a copy of that spreadsheet so you can see what we're already hitting, and it's pretty exhaustive. And so you'll see we've got contact folks that are already identified for each of those organizations. So happy to share that.
Board Member Romero?
Are these even working? Do we need that?
Can you hear us in the back?
Okay.
Not really. So the echo is gone, but nobody can hear us.
Just have to get closer to it.
I don't.
I'll try, but
No.
just related to the same question that Mayor Valenzuela talked about, I think one of the things that I've been talking about throughout the years here is the hard to reach communities within our jurisdictions. I really want to note specifically to the Pascuayaqui tribe and the Tohono O'odham Nation spaces. Information is always good. That's part of engagement and outreach. So, and then of course in Spanish as well, right? Spanish speaking voters and communities. It would be nice to have the pamphlets and any informational pamphlets be in English and in Spanish. And then I haven't seen your list of where you're thinking of going, but it would be wonderful for all of us to see it so we can add if there's any, fairs and gatherings in our jurisdictions. It would be wonderful to have a presence there.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Board Member Murphy?
Like you said, you'd share that with us, but also as it gets updated, if you could, kind of continually share it, because if Green Valley pops up, on, and I didn't know about it because it's scheduled after, the initial one, anytime you know, it does get updated to a major way. If you could get that to us as well.
Absolutely. We'll figure out a way, Mr. Chair, to make it so that you all get real time information. Absolutely.
So I did check in with somebody who's listening, not in the room, and they can hear fine.
Oh, great.
Well, that's great, but I'm thinking about my friends back here that can't hear. What do you say we move your chairs? If you come up, I'm serious. We'll take a 5-minute break. You want to move up?
No.
You want to stay where you're at? Okay.
It's like
You weren't invited.
you didn't offer.
Okay, so we're moving on to
Item B or C.
item C.
So the only thing I wanted to say there, as I mentioned in the other comments, we will bring the admin code and the POPs to you on December 4th for consideration. But there's a lot of work that's going into it. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to, Dan, Jim, Rick, and the team on our side, but also your team, because you had a lot of folks burning up a lot of time helping us go through literally line by line by line. And it's very, very helpful. And so thank you for that. We'll get that to you. We're hoping by mid-November-ish, the last week of November. I know there's a holiday there somewhere, but we're going to get that to you as early as we can, just so that you can start looking at it. I don't expect you to read all, many, many pages of it, but just know that I believe it captures the concerns that you all had on that. So again, December 4th. If there's no questions.
Any questions?
Sure.
Okay, we'll move on to item D.
D, what I wanted to let you know there is we do have a couple things that are happening. One is we have convened the CART, the Citizens Accountability for Regional Transportation Committee. They're meeting on Monday. And what we've asked is that they give us some feedback on how to make CART better, how to make it more responsive to the issues that we see and have seen, but also want to make sure that we give them some feedback on things that I'm seeing in terms of transparency and accountability. And I think that goes back to Chairman Jose and Supervisor Hines' commentary about the public outreach. And I want to make sure that there's clarity, that there is a tie from the CART to the board, so that the board on a quarter, when you meet quarterly, when we go back to normal, if that ever exists again, but on a quarterly basis, that they are able to unfiltered chat with you about what they see in the program. And again, I focus on the program, not on the project specific. And I think that was done early on and it just kind of went away for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. I think that going forward, though, with their help, we're going to be able to bring back some thoughts to you or for your consideration in terms of maybe even reconstituting it. So I wanted to let you know that we're working on that. The second thing that I've done is I've asked the staff to convene the CAC. You may remember that group that helped us with the plan. Not in terms of an action, but really informational. I want to go back to them and let them know how the RTA Next plan has their fingerprints on it. And I want to be able to show them and walk them through that because they put a lot of time, energy, and effort into that. And I thought it would be of value to go back and let them know that. So I just wanted to let you know that those are really the steps that I'm taking here to say, look, we want everybody to understand what has transpired. And we also want feedback as well on how we make it better going forward. Now, we won't probably have another CAC for 20 years, but that was there's still valuable insight that we can gain and glean from that. So I wanted to let you know that those are the two pieces on that item. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Board Member Murphy.
On both of those, the CART and the CAC, is that an opportunity for you to engage with them when we put the pamphlet together? Whether they can comment in support of it, hopefully, whether as an agency or subcommittee or individually or both, because I think as a citizen, they can probably do it as a citizen as well as there's just food for thought on the folks that had a fingerprint, on it, if they can be part of hopefully the pamphlet.
Mr. Chair, Board Member Murphy, I'll probably refrain from asking them to do that directly. However, the idea is really to make sure we're open. And I'm hopeful that they will see that and see the value and they'll be able to comment, provide commentary as appropriate.
Right.
And so that's kind of the game plan, but it's also to help us be better at what we're doing.
Right.
So that when I come back to you with what the constitution, the reconstitution of the cart looks like, which there will be one,
Right.
what it looks like. And I can tell you, hey, we've got some feedback from these folks that really provided some insight that they had a front row seat. That's the spirit and intent.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just have-
Board Member Romero?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the CART and administrative codes and procedures, I'm happy to hear that we are reviewing them and updating them based on the TMC or different jurisdictions, and that you're bringing it to the CART and other committees. In terms of the next conversation, item 10, that I requested the chair add to our discussion, some of the issues with both the CART and the CAC and other committees that were created for RTA 1, many of those were dormant and or they were so big that they lacked quorum all the time, and so they just wouldn't function. Are there any possibilities of changing the CART and CAC? I don't know if CAC is going to survive for the RTA next, but the CART should. And so I'm just wondering if part of the conversation that we're going to have is reviewing the effectiveness of those committees, what committees do what, and refining them so that we don't have as much difficulty getting quorum. So for example, the CART, one of the suggestions I'm making in terms of the RTA next for accountability and transparency is that we create a citizens oversight committee that could be the CART, but reimagined, right? And so I guess my question is, are we going to be able to look at the different committees that have different responsibilities in RTA 1? Are we going to have them continue to RTA next? And then what the composition of those committees look like?
Mr. Chairman, answers yes.
Okay. Alrighty. So you're going to bring it back in December, or when are you going to bring it back to us?
Mr. Chairman, it'll be an evolution. I think there'll be a conversation in December. I don't know that I'll be ready with all the pieces, but yes, absolutely. And from where I sit right now today, there's no question about will the CART or a CART continue. We've said in every conversation we've had in the public that there will be citizen oversight. And so my recommendation is that we will. Now, do we call it a CART? Do we call it something else? But there will be, and I'll bring back some recommendations probably at the December meeting with some thoughts on that and how that can be reconstituted potentially.
Thank you.
Board Member Maxwell and then Board Member Murphy.
Yeah, I fully agree with the taking a look at all the committees. The point that you made, Mayor Romero, about the number and the size that we've grown them to makes it very difficult. Matter of fact, last night at the Streets and Roads Conference that's being held up at El Conquistador, which there's a lot of conversation around RTA next. That was one of the things that came up. I ran into a CART member and they got frustrated in a large part because there was so difficult to get a quorum. There was they felt it made it too unwieldy. You know, the ship gotten too big. You can't steer it easily. So I do like that idea. What I think we want to make sure of is whatever committees we do come up with, and I like the idea of keeping the CART. I think citizen oversight absolutely lives in the CART, but we make them streamlined so that we don't have, 10 committees to provide us the same thing. One committee could do real well. So I look forward to seeing what you bring back on recommendations. And I know there's a lot of those members that were on those boards. It's to the point of the CAC, because it is not a function of the ongoing thing. I do think at some point it'd be good for us to reach back out to the CAC, talk to them about the current plan, but also get their feedback on what they didn't like about the last process, what they felt hindered it. So that way, when we go 20 years from now for RTA next, we'll have a more effective and efficient CAC that I think will lead them to be able to give us a plan versus a couple plans.
Board Member Murphy?
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback off of that, and I know you and I have talked about it when you came down to present to our town council. I felt a lot of value when the TMC was working through all that hard work and having them, maybe the corridor oversight, whoever it is, once a year maybe, be available, to come to a regional council meeting, along with the, updates, whether it be quarterly or every 6 months, but I felt there was value to have them here if we had any questions, kind of for their philosophy and just throwing that out as you're putting these pieces together. That's just one of my suggestions, is to have them on maybe a yearly basis, so we don't wake up at the 18th year figuring out, oh crap, we're not where we want to be. We'll find that out a little bit sooner working with you.
Mr. Chairman, just so there's clarity for you on that point, part of the charge that I've gotten from you is how do you memorialize these conversations, right? So that it isn't necessarily a function of who's sitting in this chair or your chairs. Quite frankly, it's a function of the openness and the transparency. And so part of it is to establish a standing item on the agenda, on the board agenda, so that those folks come and make a report, so that and up to and including maybe some specificity on what they're reporting on. So that way, it's systemic now. It's a piece of what the expectation is going forward. So I just want to let you know that's what we're working on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Ortega. We'll go to item 10, Board Member Romero.
You didn't have anything else? Item D? Nothing?
I think we covered.
Okay,
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate you adding this item to the discussion. One of the reasons, it's kind of a continuation of what we've been discussing. And I just want to make sure that we are very specific and explicit in terms of transparency and accountability for the taxpayers, as well as the responsibility that we have when we are charging a sales tax, the responsibility that we have in expending those funds, and not only making it accountable and transparent through a citizens oversight committee, but also for the benefit of adding value to the taxpayer to support local businesses and workers. And so there's two pieces to my request. One, that we clearly define a citizen oversight committee that will be in charge of looking at the expenditures of RTA next projects and how the funds are being spent. That's one. And the second piece is considering language in our administrative codes or our policy and procedures manual to define worker protections and investing these funds locally and creating jobs in our region. So the language is may include following existing laws by properly classifying workers in regards to state and federal wage, tax, and workers' compensation requirements. Many subcontractor companies or contractors 1099 a lot of its workers, and that is a way to go around paying federal taxes, social security taxes, all of that. We shouldn't accept it when we are using taxpayer money. Also protecting taxpayers by maintaining bonding, insurance, and financial responsibility as a company that's being contracted with taxpayer funds. Hiring contractors who do not have recent records of disbarment, default, or serious violations of labor or safety laws that would be putting workers in danger. And believe it or not, there are subcontractors that have records of disbarment, default, that get through and get contracts with jurisdictions throughout the state. investing in developing workforce capacity. And this is something that many construction companies value because of the lack of opportunity to get construction employees. They usually like to invest in apprenticeship programs. I know that JTED has a construction apprenticeship program that many companies invest separately on their own for employee training, especially in the construction and trades fields. And then, of course, ensuring contractors meet training and safety requirements. And the last one, considering goals for local hiring. Will guarantee us that companies in our region, are creating jobs here. Many construction companies bring people from other states. And in lieu of, in turn, what that happens is basically our money is taken out of the state in our region altogether. So that's language that I'm presenting to you, asking the board to consider that we start moving on, and that it not be on the language of the questions presenting to the voters, but much more into put into our administrative codes and policy and procedures. So if you'd like to consider, I'd like to motion that the RTA board consider or start moving on changing our administrative codes and or policy and procedures manual to include this language to protect our taxpayers and make sure that we have accountability to them.
Second.
There's a,
Seconded by Board Member Hines, or, okay. Flip a coin. Board Member Murphy.
Couple questions on it. One, because I know staff is working on the policies and procedures. So I would prefer to give them a little time to look at that and see what can or should. The other one is, because my understanding always was with our RTA, we're the bank, right? And then we work with the municipalities, and it's the procurement process, right? That each of us have to go through where these would be embedded in. So I didn't know if that already happens working with the municipality, or it needs to be embedded, at the RTA, or if you've had enough time to consider each one of these before the December meeting coming back for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Murphy, I'm happy to look at these. I have not spoken with anyone, like any of the industry or anybody at this point. I really wanted to see what the flavor was on the board, and then we can pursue that. Most of this is pretty much standard.
Right.
Okay. But there's some pieces here that we want to make sure that would be clear. I mean, I want to understand what this means. And so we'll explore that and understand, does it make sense to have an overarching policy that guides,
Right.
And then provides, again, guidance for the jurisdiction to go forth and do and use their processes. That's probably where we'll land. I just don't know exactly what that would look like, but I'm happy to look at it between now and December. Happy to do it.
Board Member Maxwell.
Mayor, you want to respond first?
no, it's something else separately.
Nothing, okay.
I appreciate this being brought up because it gave me an opportunity to actually learn more about what ADOT does. So I did reach out to ADOT and I got their answers on all this stuff. And the bottom line, if I summarize all the details, they said, it was made very clear to me that ADOT has to comply with all the Davis-Bacon laws. They have to comply with all the federal and all the state laws that are already in place. And so they believe that every contract they issue complies with everything here. I know the city of Tucson has similar rules in place on theirs, and I'm pretty sure the county does, and many of you all may, and because they all are good common sense things. The question I've got on it, and this is, ADOT's got to apply ADOT rules. And that's why if there's, I think a big piece of it will be how you bring the language back. Because I'm not sure if we want to get, especially a taxing authority. I mean, that's what we are ultimately. We're a taxing authority. If we want to get in a position where taxing authorities start mandating to either the city of Tucson or to anybody on what it has to be. We may be able to vary legally, give recommendations and what we're targeting, and to let the community know that this is our intent, this is what we want. But with PAG being an association of governments and with the RTA being a taxing authority, the question that came up when I was in my conversation with ADOT is, one, do we have the authority to do that, even if we wanted to? And then really, as elected officials, and this is something obviously not a concern for me, but as you as elected officials representing municipalities, do you want this regional group to be putting that in? Definitely open to it. I like the idea of maybe overarching recommendations and intents,
Yeah.
but I think we've got to know if we are legal to really do it. And I think my guess is you're all already doing it, but that's.
Yeah, and if I may, Mr.
Board
Chair,
Member
and just in response, I agree with all of the comments. I think that it would be aspirational. That's why my motion says either administrative code and policy and or procedures, aspirational. And we need to make sure that as a body, we are creating goals, right? In terms of how we want this money spent responsibly. The first piece, it really is direction, making sure that we explicitly describe a citizens oversight committee that protects, right? And that needs to be very explicit. And that should be on our informational pamphlet. It will help us with the citizens. It's helped us at the City of Tucson with our initiatives greatly. On the second piece, it is basically giving you, Mr. Ortega, the capacity to work it into our either administrative code or policy procedures. And it's an aspirational kind of language. Because I know that with our procurement policies, we have to go through our own jurisdictional laws that we want to follow. So it is much more an aspirational and some goal setting for all of our jurisdictions to follow.
Board Member Jose.
Thank you, Chairman of the board and other members of the board. I think the proposal is to discuss this, to look at it. If we're not doing that, or we don't have some of that, we should be doing that. We have organizations have many committees and so forth. Some of them are active, some of them are not. Everybody's doing their job. Everybody's doing their job. And sometimes where there's an absence of some language, it just helps us to improve to our accountability and our responsibility. And it is an oversight, the citizens' oversight. It also provides transparency. We want to be transparent to the taxpayers and so forth. So I recognize all the concerns and that we don't want to tie us down too much and so forth. But as was stated before, a lot of this stuff has already been done by other partners that work with us on projects. It would just to enhance our organization are my thoughts. And again, we look forward to the information coming back to see where we go from there. Thank you.
Any other?
If I may.
Member Hines.
Yeah, so just to clarify, is this something that we are going to be directing staff to come back to us with? Okay, perfect, great. And RTA, we are directly contracting with, the folks that do this work, right?
Well,
No, it's only through GAs through jurisdictions?
yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So
interesting.
each jurisdiction, for example, the projects in Oro Valley does that contracting. RTA doesn't do that contracting for those projects. So we have our own, for example, we don't have Davis-Bacon requirements unless it's imposed on us through a federal grant. But yeah.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
And in the City of Tucson, we do. In the City of Tucson, the mayor and council have decided to institute all of these, the suggestions that we have here to be able to basically create jobs for our local economy.
Board Member Murphy.
And that's why, you know, when I heard aspirational, I was much more comfortable with that. Because there's always exceptions. I know working with the county on Campbell Road, I think we went out 5 times for a design engineer because of the uniqueness of it. So, you know, there are always going to be exceptions where, and we again have our own procurement process. But as an aspirational goal, I think everything's, you know, fine. It's just, you know, back to Councilmember Maxwell, you know, having, you know, the legal opinion as a taxing authority, you know, what can we impose and not impose from that perspective, I think would be very important, you know, to learn, because again, we contract with you contract with the municipalities. Thanks.
Yeah, I think, you know, I certainly agree with the concept of strong oversight by a citizen group. I think it was, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Ortega, but I wrote the citizen oversight lives in the cart. I don't know if you said that or not, but it would certainly, I think it's important for us to look at what we have that already exists so that we don't create more layers or so on and so forth. So I appreciate the fact that Mr. Ortega and staff are going to be looking at this, most likely TMC as well in terms of, or no, we've drained them.
We haven't gotten to that.
Okay, all right. Any
And
other?
I'm open to whatever lives right now that we use, like if CART's responsibility is to have oversight, then we use the CART, but we have to be very explicit about it being oversight, citizen-led oversight. And then I know that you're working on updating our administrative code and our POPs. I'm concerned about the CART and other committees being too big. And so if they need to be re-envisioned, I'm open to that as well, because we need to make sure that we have quorums and a functioning oversight committee. So I really am giving Mr. Ortega as much flexibility as possible for him to come back and present to us what we're directing them to do.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. All in. Board Member
Mr. Chair,
Maxwell.
I just want to clear one thing, because I've heard a motion, but I didn't hear a change to it, because we were talking about the aspirational side of it. And that, I mean, what I've taken away from our discussion is we're turning to the executive director. I think we're all 100%. We need very specific oversight rules. We've heard back from those committees that they're unhappy. We know that there's better things. There's a lot better things we can do in the oversight world to prevent maybe some of the issues we faced towards the last 5-6 years. So I do believe that that's a directive from the motion. On the other side, I think what I heard is aspirational goal. I've also heard all the municipalities say you've got exceptions. So I think that if you could accept an amendment that we would like to have the executive director come back to us with what is legal, what is possible, and how we can best have those aspirational goals built into our language.
Yeah, and absolutely, I'll accept that. That's why I gave the original motion basically says to come back to the board and add to the administrative code or our policy and procedures, wherever I think the executive director feels it belongs there.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, 9-0.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, one quick item. I believe, Mayor Romero, in your email where you transmitted this, you also asked for more frequent meetings between now and March. I just wanted to put that on your radar, that was a request from a board member to potentially meet monthly between now and March. We're definitely up for that. We can give you updates as you see fit. I don't think they would have to be too long, but I would suggest that if you want to do that, you let us know so we can start getting on your calendars. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Okay, so discussion about our next scheduled meeting is December 4th, and I believe the meeting after that is January 9th. Is that correct? No? I'm just looking at the timeline, and you had RTA by January 9th.
Would be March.
No, it would be February, I think. Is it January? There you go.
January 22nd. I just, on the timeline, it said RTA, so that's why. So so we have scheduled meetings December 4th, January 22nd.
Mr. Chair.
Board Member Romero.
I really don't like to put a lot of meetings on our calendar. I really don't. But I think that from now to March, we should put something on our, if it's not every month, it could be every 6 weeks, just to touch base on how it's going, right? We have a very important election in March. I don't think it would be responsible of us to, at least with the RTA side, come together either monthly or every 6 weeks to, if it has to be short, just a report, just updates. These are important conversations that especially with the codes and updating, the policies and procedures and updates from committees and all of the work that you are doing, Mr. Ortega, and then how the outreach and engaging of the public is going. I think that even if they're virtual, we should touch base more regularly before March's election. That was my thought.
Mr. Chair. Board Member Murphy.
Just to add to that, I mean, when they have a lot of work to do. So I would say, probably October would be out, maybe a check-in in November, to early November before the December meeting to maybe you need a little more clarity on some of these things we're working on. Then we have a December, then we have a January. And I'm very comfortable having one in February for sure before the March one
Yeah.
on there. But I would, like to give them a little time for October. But whatever you think, or knowing how much work you have on your plate.
Chairman, based on that, we can do pretty much all of that. I would suggest then it'd be the first week of November, only because I think we start getting into the holiday and then it becomes tough. But if we've got the December 4th, that gives us, at the time, but there's enough, and it can be hopefully a short meeting. I don't even know if we need a regional council meeting. It would just be a RTA meeting.
Well, sure, I was just looking at the schedule. I mean, November 1st is ballot language and the publicity pamphlet is due to county elections. I mean, it would seem to me that if we were going to meet as a board, there might be some benefit to meet before that so that the board could see the final ballot language and publicity pamphlet before it goes to county elections. I don't see a whole lot of value in meeting after November 1st, but.
Mr. Chair, I completely agree. What I was going to add was I'd prefer to target that last week in October because it's after the November one and November is always chaotic, but we're meeting December 4th too. So it's early December. Right. So if we do in November, we're talking 2-3 weeks later, we're coming back. So I would agree with you, Mr. Chair. I think last week in October would be great. The challenge will be for the staff to be able to get out and get all of us on their calendars find a date of agreement. But I do like the pace of one about a month apart where we can. Obviously the holidays make it a little different, but so I'd support that. So
if we did that, that last week in October, we would have then the December and then a January meeting. So I think it's fulfilling. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I understood that when you all voted and gave me direction on the ballot language, we're done with the ballot language with the exception of the commentary that you provided in terms of the publicity pamphlet. But certainly we can bring back the publicity pamphlet. But my intent was to get that ballot language over to the county like tomorrow.
Sure.
But if that's not your intent, I want to know that so I can pivot.
My intent, Mr. Ortega, I'm just simply looking at the timeline and trying to look at what would make sense. So get it on the ballot language, but publicity pamphlet is a component of that. So why don't we shoot for the last week in October and then keep the meetings that we have scheduled. And then what I'd like to suggest at the January 22nd meeting, what Jackie, what's our meeting after January 22nd? Okay, I think we're in good shape here. This meeting.
Yeah.
There's a great
You're
event.
thinking end of October.
What's that?
There's a great event on the 30th. We can just meet on the 30th.
There is, right, yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, and just looking at the calendar, we do have that event on the 30th. Probably not a good day for us to meet. So then what, if you're okay, and I know the Thursdays seem to work for you pretty well.
That's a state of the town.
No, I got it. But what I'm wondering is maybe we'll change it to the Wednesday that week, if that's okay with you all. So it'll be the 29th. Okay, that's what we're going to shoot for. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sounds good. All right. With that, we're going to adjourn the RTA meeting and move to PAG.
Ready, do you need a break at all or like, no? Yay? No? I can power through. But you can,
Get up, go.
alrighty, so we are convening the meeting of the Regional Council for Pima Association of Governments. Item 1 is called to order. Item 2 is, do you need to vote us in, Jackie?
Both the order.
Do you need to do roll call? Okay.
Here.
Here.
Is here.
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 Here? Alrighty, item 2 is called to the audience.
Madam Chair, there are no speakers at this time.
Thank you. Item 3 is meeting summary approval of July 31st, 2025. There is a motion to approve the July 31st, 2025 meeting summary as presented. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. Item 4 is mission and overview of the Pima Association of Governments. This item was requested by myself and the vice chair of the PAG because we have some new individuals and wanted to make sure that we were clear about the mission of the Pima Association of Governments. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is really an overview. We've given you a lot of information in your packet. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we do have a brief presentation. So Jamie Brown will be leading us through a brief presentation here to go over that. So thank you, Madam Chair. Go, Jamie.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Madam Chair, members of the Regional Council, appreciate this opportunity to provide this brief overview and discuss our mission. Next slide, please. So you can see the mission on the screen. As Mr. Ortega said, there's also a lot of detail in the packet, so I'll be referring to that during the presentation to keep this brief. But a reminder of some key designations and roles. So PAG has been in existence for over 50 years. In 1970, PAG was formed as a Council of Governments. A Council of Governments is a multi-service entity with state and locally defined boundaries formed to deliver a variety of programs, so it's very broad. In 1972, PAG was formed as a 501c4. In 1973, the governor designated PAG as the federally required Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. And because of the size of our urban area, it's greater than 200,000 in population. We're also a transportation management area, which has additional requirements. And in 2004, the RTA was established by the legislature of Arizona, and there is a nexus with PAG. Next slide, please. So in terms of the connection or nexus with federal and state law, just focusing on the transportation side of things, on the left, you can see a screenshot of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That's the 5-year transportation bill that authorizes the programs, including the metropolitan planning programs that PAG is required to comply with. And so with every surface transportation bill, there are some changes that we have to be aware of and follow as the federally designated MPO. On the right is a screenshot of statute. So at the state level, the statute really is focused in terms of the transportation side, planning side, on ADOT's role developing the statewide long-range transportation plan and the 5-year transportation construction facilities program. But the work that we do here locally in terms of the planning and programming feeds into ADOT's efforts. Also, the statutes related to the RTA, which are on screen, do specifically reference the Regional Council of Governments as well as the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, which I'll discuss later. Next slide, please. A question came up about how PAG is funded. And so on this slide, you see that there are a variety of federal, state, and local sources that fund PAG operations. For fiscal year 26, 70% of the funding for PAG operations is federally sourced. You can see at the top the federal sources, in the middle the state sources, and at the bottom the state sources. When you add the highway user revenue fund sources as well as the RTA and just focus on transportation activities, 90% of our funding is dedicated to transportation related activities. Next slide, please. In terms of questions about PAG's responsibilities, and in the attachment in the packet, there are links to these files that you see on screen. One on the left is the detailed work program agreement between ADOT and PAG. It's updated biannually. It refers to our federal requirements and also references the regional council approved 2-year work program. On the right is a resource. I think anybody who's interested in what COGS and MPOs do in Arizona and also their requirements, encourage them to look at this MPO and COG guidelines and procedures manual, which is available online. Next slide, please. So again, remembering that 70% of the federal funding and 90% of our funding is dedicated to transportation planning related activities. The MPO required deliverables you see on screen are 3, and you hear about these a lot. On the left is the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, but we don't call it that. We call it the Regional Mobility and Accessibility Plan. But in the federal regulations and the federal laws, it's called the MTP. So as you all recall, that was most recently approved back in July, the 2055 RMAP. As a reminder, an RMAP must look out at least 20 years, must be updated at least every 4 years, and must be financially constrained. The next deliverable in the middle is the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. And the most recent approved TIP is the FY25 through 29 TIP, which was approved last fall in October. It must also be financially constrained, but it's shorter range, just covers the 5-year period. We cover, the federal requirement is for 4 years, but we also include a 5th year. It must be updated every 4 years. And important thing to remember is that the projects and programs in the TIP must be consistent with the long-range plan. And finally, on the right is the Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWUP. We call it the Overall Work Program, but in the federal law, it's called the Unified Planning Work Program. And so it covers 2 years and is a statement of work with details required by federal law, including a budget. This is really where we identify what our priorities are for the next 2 years. Next slide, please. So there was a question about what other Arizona COGS and MPOs do. So there's more detail again in your packet, but this slide just kind of highlights the fact that there are 7 MPOs, 2 TMAs. Remember, those are the transportation management areas, those urban areas of greater than 200,000 in size that have additional requirements. 4 COGS, and you'll notice that there's some overlap. So PAG is actually all 3. We have all 3 designations. So in terms of various councils of governments, what they do, you can see a list there that doesn't include everything, but just basically doing a internet search of our partners and other research, you can see that there's a variety of programs that COGS and in Arizona do, including helping with economic development activities, water quality planning, homelessness issues, Head Start, and many others. Next slide, please. So there's kind of a question about PAG specifically in our MPO activities versus our COG activities. Again, our MPO activities are restricted to those what's governed by federal law and regulations, and also the funding sources that we use for those activities. So the screen capture on the left shows a map. So that really highlights some of the data analysis, the data collection, the GIS mapping we do. And then we bring together different stakeholders, members of the public, to discuss the data, discuss priorities, and make planning decisions that then become incorporated into things like that list that you can see on the screen from the TIP, which identifies the programs and projects with specific funding by fiscal year and amount. So those are some very specific MPO activities, again, governed by federal law. In terms of the COG activities, as you recall, it's very broad. And one of the areas that we like to talk about is the RPC. The Regional Partnering Center was formed in 2014 as a 501c3 nonprofit that's managed by PAG. And its signature activity right now is managing the Sabino Canyon Crawler Shuttle Service in partnership with Tucson Electric Power, U.S. Forest Service, and the transit operator. And Mary Carter of our staff is currently the lead with the RPC and can help answer any questions about that. Jim DeGroot, as many of you know, was actually instrumental in getting the RPC launched and the Sabino Canyon Shuttle in particular off the ground. Next slide, please. So in terms of what PAG can do and additional opportunities to engage, that was a question we received. Really, the focus is on what's in our overall work program. The overall work program was reviewed by our federal and state funding partners and approved by the regional council. It identifies our priorities for the next 2 fiscal years and the funding sources that will allow us to engage in those activities. In terms of looking at future opportunities, the development of the next OWP is a really good time to have that conversation about, with these 3 steps, really identifying what those priorities are, what the potential projects and programs we could consider to address those priorities, looking at anticipated funding and aligning the funding to match those programs and projects that we've identified, and then developing the work program that's available for review, revisions, and approval. Next slide, please. And with that, I want to thank you for your time, and we're happy to take any questions.
Mr. Madam Chair, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was looking. Quick question.
Is it council member?
Board member.
It's a regional council. It's a regional council.
Can you just touch on, because it's come up in the past, you have the RMAP, you have the TIP, and you have the OWP. Can we discuss anything in an OWP that's not already in the TIP, which is not already in the RMAP? Can you just touch on the population of each one of those? Can they be operated separately? Or, because my understanding is you got to have it in the RMAP first, then it gets in the TIP, and then we discuss it on a regular basis on the OWP while we're updating the other 2. Can you just kind of touch on where projects have to be populated?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Council Member Murphy. Great question. Thank you very much. Sometimes we have a slide that shows how the various plans are nested. So in terms of like the transportation plans and projects, things like that, like the roadway projects, we start with the bigger square of the RMAP. The long range plan must include everything, right? It's kind of represents the universe of what can be funded. Then within that, within the 5 years of that, the first 5 years, you've got the TIP. So, but it's nested within the RMAP. So the TIP can only include projects and programs that are consistent with the long range plan.
Correct.
We also include the RTA as well within that RMAP, even though the RTA will be 20 years, not 5 years, but it's inclusive of what's in the RMAP. In terms of the overall work program, it's related because it will identify the fact that we need to work on developing the long range transportation plan and updating it or updating the transportation improvement program, but it won't specifically identify transportation projects and programs like you would see in the long range plan that our member agencies implement. The overall work program is really focused on the PAG activities, the planning studies that we do that help facilitate that planning and programming, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Any other? Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So follow up, and it's based on the nexus with federal and state law. So one of the things you pointed out, both of them are interesting. Both of them are infrastructure connections. Under the Arizona revised statutes, 485301, it defines that it's for municipalities or regions over 400, less than 1.2 million people. What happens when we go over 1.2?
Madam Chair, Council Member Maxwell. That's a great question. I'm looking over at Mr. Ortega, legal counsel this week.
This is for the regional council, or because there's
PAG falls under all of them. The interesting thing was the nexus with federal and state law, which was the third slide in the deck, showed IJA, and it showed the Arizona Revised Statutes, and it was the one that references the establishment in 2004 of the RTA under PAG, because it's all part of it. And I know it might be more of an RTA question, but it really is, it's one that I've had for a while. Once we go over 1.2, I mean, we expected to be above it already, and we're not. We're gonna broach it sometime in the future, more than likely. So I was just curious, is that something any of us who work in public policy should be starting to work to change those population numbers?
Madam Chair, we'll find out. Short answer is we don't know right this second, but we'll bring back some thoughts for you.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course, thank you. Any other questions, comments, observations? One of the reasons why I wanted to, and the Vice Chair, we both wanted to present, to have this presentation is because there's some change that happened in terms of who's representing which jurisdictions on the PAG. And we really have not spent, at least in the last 6 years that I have been sitting at this table, we have really not spent enough time understanding what a transportation management area, metropolitan planning organization, and a council of governments, what they really are and what we could do with these designations. A lot of it is planning, and we see that in the RMAP, and we see that in, in all of the documents that have been put together, the TIP and overall work program. But I don't think we've spent enough time as a council in part of our governance is to be in a planning organization where we have visionary goals, right? And part of the work that we can do is in economic development and water quality planning and even public safety and homelessness and, community services and assistance planning. And so I really want to, we spent a lot of time arguing about the RTA next. I really want us to dig in at the PAG portion of our meetings to really think in a visionary way as to how we're going to continue growing and thriving as a region. And that pertains to the planning work that we can do. And even in environmental work that we need to do. So I want us to remember that, and I just want to reiterate to all of us that we have an amazing opportunity through the Pima Association of Governments and our separate designations to be able to make a difference in the quality of life and the economic opportunity that we create as a region. So I will be digging into these pieces. I am, some of you know this about me very well, I'm a planner at heart, and I really like to put together action planning, strategic planning for us, so that we can move on to the next level of creating opportunity for our region. So I will be digging in terms of our responsibilities as a TMA, as a planning organization, and as a regional council, and looking at the different funding streams and seeing how best we all can work together, come to the table, and move us forward. That's what we should be doing as a region. So I just wanted to add that. Chairman Jose?
Madam Chair, board members, council members, committee members, or whatever our titles are. Thank you for the discussion on the agenda item. is a great agenda item because I too sit here and I, in my previous roles with the Thorn Out Nation, have been aware of PAG and RTA. And sometimes I question myself is, what am I doing sitting here? What am I doing sitting here? Because the people ask me, you participate in all these meetings and all these boards and these things. What is it doing for our nation? How is it affecting our nation? You know, and we talk about projects and different things and that, and I know they're jurisdictional, then there are all these other barriers and so forth, whatever that come up. And the question that always gets asked of me is that, what does that mean for the Thorn Out Nation? Well, we have 2.8 million acres of land. We have over 700 miles of road, improved and unimproved road. And we know that we are on federal land, but the majority of our nation sits in Pima County. And as I mentioned before, you've heard me say this here before, is that of our 36,000 federally recognized enrolled members of the nation, the majority of our members live in your cities and towns. And so I bring that up a lot, is that I think we're kind of looking, the nation is kind of looking beyond what's in it for me directly, but what's in it for the whole of us. What's in it for the whole of us in Pima County? What's in it for the whole of us in the state of Arizona? What's in it for the whole of, well, maybe I should leave that discussion for another. I was gonna say the federal government, but that's a whole nother discussion. And so I sit here and I wonder, what am I really doing here? And I have to be the advocate. I have to be the one to go back, and when people ask me about it, what is this? I have to explain to them what it is. And maybe that's something that we got to get better at ourselves, at marketing who we are and what we do, especially now when we got something that we're pushing to put out there, and that we just discussed. We got to get better at our marketing on who PAG is, who RTA is. Who are you? What do you do? You know, you all are very, very busy. You all have governments to run yourselves, but we spend a lot of time coming here, and rightfully so. And we walk away the table. Maybe we've had some disagreements, or we agreed to disagree, or however to say that. But I often walk around out of this meeting, and I'm saying, what's in it for the Thorn Out Nation? What's in it for the people that I'm responsible for that live in your jurisdiction? You know, and I try to advocate for the best foot forward, saying, well, you know, it's going to prove this and it's going to prove that, and the project going on here. Yes, I know it's taking some time, but you know, nothing ever gets fixed overnight. So all I'm saying here, I agree with you, your vision as a planner and so forth, but we can plan and move forward. But if we're going to ask for the support that we're asking for our organizations, meaning PAG and RTA, then we got to get better at marketing who we are and what we do. Because I will ask at some point if PAG and RTA maybe can come present to my council, my 22-member council, which we represent the 11 sub-political districts of the nation. But like I said, a lot of our members live in other jurisdictions. And y'all know that well, leave it at that, because I would tell you a little bit of our history, but you might already know it or you might not know it. Arizona and Sonora has been verified and solidified as the Aboriginal lands of the Thorn Out. And we're here from the beginning of time, and we're not going anywhere soon. But we want to, and we choose to be at the table to see how we're going to advance for everyone. But I tell you, that's the question that I have when I sit here and I walk out of here. What is in the part of the Thorn Out Nation? Maybe not right now. Maybe I don't see anything direct, but I see things indirectly that affect our nation and our people. Because I have to drive almost every day from South to Tucson or from South to Phoenix or Chairman Hernandez and I just drove all the way up to Flagstaff the other day, and I was very impressed on that road, man. I hadn't been on that road for a long time, but you know, it was a long time coming. And that's what we can do when we do what you're saying, Madam President, about that planning. And we see all these wheels turning in here, but the people on the outside don't see that. That's all I'm saying. So thank you for your bringing this topic to the table, and I look forward to more discussion on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any others? Councilmember Hines?
Council member. Oh my. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So, oh, this is fixed now, right? That's cool. Thanks for that. You know, I wonder, since this is kind of a where are we going kind of discussion, might it be time, and this would be a question for our attorney as well, because I don't know that I have the answer to this, but she's working on it maybe, I hope. Should it just be the 9 people here that are on the regional council? What about, I mean, the statute says that it can be other entities that run, basically that operate a transportation agency. Well, I would say that's the University of Arizona, Pima College. What about our school boards? What about the airport authority? Right. So I think, is like, do we have all of the folks on the regional council that we should have? And if we decide as a group, I think by maybe a majority that we don't, and we want to expand that membership to some of those other entities, how would that happen? I'm just kind of curious. So that's just a thought for the future. We don't obviously have to do anything, but I'm curious. I think that'd be, you know, I think more voices could only improve what it is we're doing, trying to do, and doing for the community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the comments. I really appreciate that. I've been thinking about that at the city council level, you know, and I've felt for some time that there's an economic development void in that there's a lot of silos in economic development in our region. And so we've taken upon ourselves on the city of Tucson side to really take the reins as a mayor and council of our economic development planning. But I see here, and also with school districts, right? The success of school districts within our city is an important piece of economic development. And so we are going to start that work with our school districts. We add an agenda item to talk about our partnerships with Pima counties and other regional governments. We could do something similar here. You would have to change state law or federal law to expand the people that sit at the table, but that doesn't mean we can't bring our school districts, you know, to the table, add them in our committees as we move forward. It's an important conversation we should be having, and so I will be adding agenda items at our PAG meetings that will have us discussing what our vision is for the future and economic development. And, you know, I see that with MAG, there's community initiatives that they lead in. And this is part of our material that was shared with us for the item. And I would highly encourage that we all read it, right? And it'll get our mind going and our ideas going. But in MAG, they have, outside of the transportation planning work that they do, they have an initiative that talks about homelessness, that talks about economic development, environmental work. These are important issues that we should be talking about. And we should definitely make sure that the voices of the Otan people and the Yaqui people are part of that conversation. It should be we should be able to answer, each and every one of us, we should be able to answer quickly how our residents at each of our jurisdictions
benefit from sitting at the PAC table. And so now that we have the RTA next at the table, it still needs to be voted on, and there's a lot of work that needs to happen there. But we have a different council, PAG council, and we have different attorneys and a different executive director. We have an opportunity to advance these conversations and the visionary work that needs to happen at a council of government. So if there's no other comments, I just wanted to explain and put into the record why I added this item, and the vice chair felt equally passionate about adding this item. So with that, we move on to, if there's no more questions or comments, we move on to the next item, which is item 5, consent agenda items.
Madam Chair, this is informational, and what you'll see on future, both PAG and RTA, but on the agenda is more of the, kind of pro forma, more of the routine stuff, contracts, those kinds of things. And some of these reports are pretty standard, and that we provide you the materials. If you have questions, you can ask us, but there's no action required on this item, Madam Chair, excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was busy doing something.
We're moving on to item 6, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
No action on item 5?
Action on
Okay,
item 5.
so item 6 is the review and recommendation of approval for the fiscal year 2025, fiscal year 2029 PAG Transportation Improvement Program Amendment, number 2025.020.
Madam Chair, we do have Pari available to answer questions. The material was provided to you. I am recommending approval of this. And if you have questions, Pari is available to make a presentation if you'd like. Otherwise, a motion would be in order on this one to approve it. We do need to bring it. We do need a formal adoption on that.
May I have a motion to approve the TIP amendment number 2025.020 to the PAG fiscal year 2025, fiscal year 29 Transportation Improvement Program?
Move to approve. Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. Item 7 is the Arizona Department of Transportation South Central District Projects Update. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a couple folks here. Jeremy Moore is going to make a brief presentation. So this is really a follow-up to the conversations we had in the creation of the RTA Next plan. If you remember, we talked about the RAC funding, the regional funding that comes from ADOT to PAG, basically. And so there was a lot of conversation, a lot of question. And if you remember, we shifted a significant amount of funding from RTA Next to the ADOT component. If you remember, that column got big at the very end. And I thought it would be appropriate and important for an update on the current projects, just to give you an overview of that. And so we asked ADOT to come. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy Moore, who's the Assistant District Engineer for the South Central District.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having us. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the council. My name is Jeremy Moore with ADOT, and I'll be giving you an update, kind of what we got going on in the region, like Mike said, with the RAC funds. So starting off on I-10 between Ina and Ruthroff, we've got granite construction out there. The bid amount on this project was $171 million. The delivery method on this project was a low bid. We did start this project back in winter of 2023 with expected completion in spring of 2026. This project entailed restructuring and widening I-10 to 4 lanes in each direction. We did reconstruct the I-10 bridges at the Rito River, reconstruct the I-10 bridges at the CDO, reconstruct the I-10 bridges at Orange Grove. That is open, so Orange Grove is open. And then we have to construct the Sunset over the Rito. And then this one, we flipped I-10 and Sunset, so now Sunset will go up and over I-10 versus underneath. And then we still need to construct the Sunset Bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad. Once that's done, then all we have to do is just tie in the on and off ramps, and then we've got some miscellaneous work to do, and then that project should wrap up pretty quickly. So we just got to get the UPR bridge done, get the on and off ramps done, miscellaneous items, and then we should be moving forward pretty quickly. Moving over to I-10 Keno to Country Club. Our contractor on this one is Sunk Construction with a bid amount of $442 million. The delivery method on this project was a design build, with Sunk being the contractor and Jacobs being the engineering consultant engineer of record on this one. We did start this project in fall of 2024, and we have an expected completion of summer of 2028. This one, we will reconstruct I-10 to 3 lanes in each direction with the opportunity to add the 4th lane in the future as I-10 grows. It's just a restriping exercise, but it will be able to widen to 4 lanes. We are going to reconstruct the TI at Keno, reconstruct a new traffic interchange at Country Club, which will then allow us to take the traffic interchange at I-10 and Palo Verde offline. So we can eliminate a lot of that merge and congestion at that interchange. And then we are going to construct a new I-10 westbound entrance ramp at Alvernon. And then we will be constructing an I-10 undercrossing to connect the north and south Keno sports complexes. Moving over to I-19 in Irvington, this project is still in design. The prime designer on this one is WSP, and the delivery method on this one will be low bid. We're hoping to advertise this end of this year, fall of 2025, if all goes well, with a construction hopefully starting in May of 2026. The scope of this one, we're going to reconstruct Irvington TI. We're going to construct an additional northbound on-ramp to I-19. And then we've got the retaining walls, concrete barriers, drainage, guardrail, some landscaping, lighting, and signing striping. And then we are going to make some pedestrian and bicycle improvements on both sides of Irvington. And so with that, those are the three projects that we got going on currently that have the RAC funds in these projects.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Really appreciate the presentation. I guess my question is, what's the difference between design build versus low bid?
So the low bid, ADOT, they hire the designer, we get those guys on board, and then we go through the entire design with the ADOT staff and the local agencies that are, where the project affects them. And then once we get that set of plans bid ready, we then advertise it to the community, and then contractors that are interested will go and bid the job. And basically the low bid, the lowest price usually technically wins the project. Whereas the design build, what we do is we solicit for technical proposals. And so the contractor will hire the designer and they work together. So right as the contractor knows their means and methods, they know how they want to build the job. And so they utilize the designer to help, get that most efficient construction and means and methods. And then what they do is ADOT will have like a group of 5 to 7 people. And then we interview them. We look at their proposals. We look at their statement of qualifications. They get scored on any innovations that they bring to the table. And then that's one component of the score. The other component is going to be the price that they bring to the table. So when you add those two up, then they come up with a total score. The highest score is going to win the proposal.
Why is design build chosen for one project and low bid chosen for another?
So for this one, we chose Keno to Country Club to do design build because we felt that there was a lot of innovation on that project, and we wanted to see outside of the DCR, the design concept report that was done back in 2020, we wanted to see if there was any other innovations that they could bring to the table to build that project. And so when you looked at that one, it was Country Club was supposed to be one job and Keno was supposed to be the second job. So we thought there was innovation to tie the two together and get that job out a lot quicker instead of doing like an 18-month design and then a 2-year construction period, another 18-month design and another 2-year. We pulled them both in and we got them out, and we should be done with that project in 3 years. So it shortened that
low
timeline.
bid chosen for I-19 in Irvington?
So I-19, there really wasn't a whole lot of innovation to step out of bounds on that one. It was just strictly just a traffic interchange. And so, to Mike's point, when we were talking about different delivery methods, CMAR, low bid and design bid build, there's going to be price differences in those. And so we just felt that to keep the price where it needed to line up with and the scope of the project and opportunity for innovation, that's where it kind of slid into.
So, Mr. Moore, I absolutely, what I'm about to say does not reflect on you personally. It's my experience with ADOT and projects on I-10 and I-19. When Irvington I-10 was proposed by the city of Tucson, and we requested that ADOT invest on the Irvington I-19 interchange, I was a newly elected council member in 2007. It has taken 18 years to get here. And so you must imagine my exasperation on the lack of investment from ADOT into the city of Tucson. I have my theories as to why that has happened for such a long time. The lack of investment in our interchanges on I-10 going to the southeast, and the lack of investment on the interchanges on I-19 going to the south. There's been some movement on Valencia and some movement on Ajo, but Irvington and I-19 has been a bane of our existence because of the congestion that area has seen the last 20 years. And so I guess my question is, how is it, and I know we have an ADOT board member here, how is it that we continue advocating for our region? Because what we have noticed as well, a few things. What we have noticed here in the city of Tucson is that both along I-10 headed east, especially specifically after South 6th Avenue into the east, we have not seen in decades investment in our interchanges. But we also have not seen investment in cleaning our interstates and landscaping and beautification. That's the huge case with I-19. And I-19 is the entry to our city and to our region from the south. And so it has been very, very difficult for us to, we always request maintenance because there's a lot of trash on I-19. There's a lot of trash on or around our interstates. And so I just would like a commitment from ADOT that you will enhance the landscaping and cleaning and beautification pieces on I-19 throughout the I-19 corridor and on I-10. And the other piece is regarding the commitment of funding for interchanges on I-10 headed east, where the growth areas of our city are happening. It's congested, it's old, and it's dirty. And we need to make sure that we have commitments as we move forward from ADOT. So I really appreciate, Mr. Ortega, that you requested this update. But I think that every meeting we should have this type of update unless it's not absolutely necessary regarding the budgets and how the decisions are made. Because I really do think that this council should be helping giving ADOT the input that you all need to make budgetary decisions in the coming years and into the future.
Absolutely. No, we appreciate that. And I think one of the things that we were talking with Mike on is, coming up with what we think the plan looks like. And I completely agree with you on going out east on I-10. And I think that we bring that list back to the team, the TPC and the TMC. And then we have those regional discussions on, do we feel that this plan that we've laid out is appropriate? Does it work? And take that input and take those suggestions. And then we can tweak as need to make sure that we're getting the best for the region.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Maxwell and then, or whichever, Mr. Ortega.
Madam Chair, appreciate it. You can go either way. So which other one first? What you want to go ahead, Mike? Then I'll follow you up because I got some ideas.
Madam Chair and members of the board, a couple things to just point out in fairness to Jeremy. Thank you for taking one for the team there, Jeremy. Appreciate that. I think the bottom line here is, and the spirit of this update is really to start to bring clarity on the dollars that come to the region and how those dollars are programmed and so forth. And so if you remember when we went through the exercise on the RTA Next plan, there's a lot of conversation about it. But I also think that there, as I mentioned to you, I believe here, we had one project that was over $1 billion, just one. Well, when you do the math and you add, or you're basically allocating $150 million a year, I'll let you do the math on how long that one project would take to get completed, right? And so the conversation, I think, is priorities of the region, but also incorporating the expertise that ADOT brings. Because ADOT's perspective is different than ours. They're looking at the main line, looking at all of the operational pieces. And so the key, I think, though, is to bring all of that together and have an open conversation with you about where that goes and where we're headed. And I think that's the spirit and intent here, so that unfortunately, there's only a 5-year horizon today. And what I've challenged and I've suggested is let's make that at least 10, if not 20 years, so that we're really looking at all the dollars and programming out. And that makes folks nervous because, you know, they don't like to think longer than that, but we have to, because that's what our horizon is. So, I want to give Jeremy a little grace on that, but I wanted to also let you know that's a spirit and intent of where I think you will see more frequent updates so that you can see where your projects are, but also in the context of the region as a whole. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And it's about the funds that come to the region, but also the conversations that we have to have with ADOT about the priorities we need the state and ADOT to put into our region. So, and again, I preface my comments very clearly that this is not against Mr. Moore, but something that I need to put on the record so that we can put our facts on the table and then see how we're going to fix anything that's not working. Councilmember Maxwell.
Madam Chair, thank you. So I'm going to be a little bit more direct. Here's the challenge. Money. Without the RTA Next, this region will end up having $49 million that comes through it direct to PAG, period, from the federal and state. The dollars that we have at the state budget right now, this is why there is no knight on shining armor to come save our region. I fully agree with you on the importance of taking care of all of these roads. The largest contract we approved since I've been on the board was for Keno to Country Club. Richard Searle, the Cochise County representative on the State Transportation Board, said, "Is this number true?" And then he deferred to us. He deferred to District 2, which is the one was Pima County, because one, he uses that same road. And he reminded the board, you need to keep working on I-10 East as well. We do not have the money. 71% of the state transportation funds goes to pavement preservation. Maricopa, I'm going to talk now Maricopa, not the county, the city. The city of Maricopa has showed up at every single state transportation board meeting for the last 5 years, talking to us about State Route 347. They've brought pictures of the people who have passed away on that. They've had kids and parents come in and tell us how they get stuck on these things. We have limited funds. And you know what, Mayor, we're lucky because we get 13% dedicated to the money. Maricopa gets 37. Greater Arizona, all the other 13 counties get 50% of it. Vinny Gallego, who's Simpo's executive director yesterday at Streets and Roads, talked about how he's very proud of what they've done. They made a commitment for $80 million and they got 1.7. The money's just not there. So what do we need to do as a region? Because I fully agree with you. First off, the design build versus low bid, two different things. And Irvington's been a mess on how long it's taken. Fully agreed. One of the biggest engagements we've had at the State Transportation Board and through ADOT, through the South Central District, which is what we are in, and that's what Jeremy and they run, was you can't do it over 2 holidays. We don't want to kill the economic vibrancy of that region because Irvington is so important to the economy of that part of the city of Tucson. So they've been working with them, and that actually resulted in the delay that has gone farther. Is it acceptable since the time you've been a board member, 2007? Absolutely not.
18 years.
Understand. So let me tell you the story at the last State Transportation Board meeting. Okay. 347's been coming up all the time. We're about to approve our 5-year plan. And as you know, in the State Transportation Board process, we approve a 5-year plan. We've already begun the next 5-year plan. You know, the tip's only one every 4 years. So we can put stuff in it. We say, okay, we're going to get those things done. Ours changes all the time. Lion Springs, it's a portion of SR 260. 4 lanes, it's still 2. We were facing the decision to take that out of the 5-year plan and put Maricopa 347 into it. I'll give the counties, DOT a lot of credit. He stood up there and went, 1991, we were scheduled to be done in 93. And he literally sat there and he just rolled through all the years. We just approved it. We ended up approving 2 expansion projects for Maricopa and Lion Springs. And all their citizens were getting up and talking about the number of deaths on these roads. But because of their advocacy, because they were there, because they've been beating on us, they ended up making it. And we put off pavement preservation, which is a terrible thing to do from a road maintainer, on US 40, SR 89, and another one of the state routes. So my point is, we have to get better at Pima County being vocal. Vocal at the state board and vocal locally, because those who show up, as with anything in life, are heard. And so fully agree. And I'll tell you, to give the South Central office credit, Jeremy's fighting as much as anybody, not for us to move some of the money that we moved into RTA next. Now that was us board deciding we want to take control of these funds and say where they're going to be spent. Thus the addition of Rita Road TI, recognition of that importance on the Southeast. So it's there, but it's the funding. It's not a straight ADOT thing. I do think it'd be great for you to come back at some point, Jeremy, and give the board a true description of the pros and cons of those 3 different benefits. Because design build, I believe South Mountain was done with design build, correct?
That is correct.
Took years off the completion and saved money. Did the contractors probably make more money? Absolutely, because it's to their benefit to get it done early, get it done on time, and get innovative. Low bid is just low bid, and it's a tough process. And I think that's kind of what Irvington got. So I fully appreciate your concern and your advocacy for the city of Tucson and Interstate 10 and 19. On the cleanup, here's the challenge. If we spend money on all that, we spend money on any of the preservation, then we have less money to put into the roads. Now, I'll give you a story from Sarita, and I actually met this lady for the first time at the town of Sarita. I was driving back from a meeting at Payson, and we had a caller call in. I had a hard time because of her connection, so we asked her to give us her number, and I called her on the drive back, and she went off on me about how bad Interstate 19 looks down in the vicinity of Sarita. We put her in touch with ADOT staff. She now leads a group of how many citizens?
Yeah,
and
almost 100.
And it's looking immaculate down in that part. I understand we can't always rely on the citizenry, but if it's important to us, I think we can get our citizenry stepping up and set an example. And one will learn from the next, we'll learn from the next, and we can improve some of those other things. It's all about the money.
Well, I mean, I think advocacy is something that us mayors do all the time, and so I'm going to continue doing it. I understand, but as you well said, the squeaky wheels get the oil. So have said this for a long, long time, and I will continue to say it. I think that cleanliness, landscaping, beautification shouldn't be cut. And that's why I asked about low bid, right? Because those are the sacrifices that always go first when you have low bids. Landscaping and public art and beautification. And that shouldn't be the case. So I'm going to continue advocating and being a loud advocate
for making sure that we're investing in the right areas and investing on Interstate I-19 all the way to Nogales, and I-10 and anything that is I-10 in the city of Tucson.
And Madam Chair, I agree with you. I think we should decide on some of the projects that maybe didn't make the RTA cut, some of the things that we as a region want to advocate for. The SR 189 down in Nogales, the overfly. That's when Maricopa County, Pima County, and Nogales came together, and the communities. And the big challenge is a lot of times the difference. What made the difference on Maricopa 347 is the city of Maricopa, which will tell you they're one of the most conservative cities in the state. Mayor Murphy might argue that, but one of the most conservative cities in the states, they self-imposed a half-cent sales tax, their mayor and council. They said, if our voters don't like the fact that we're doing it, that's fine, but we have to get this done. And that combined with $20 million from Pinal County pushed it over the top so we could get the projects done. So there's a lot of different ways. Love to have that conversation again. I do think it's important for us as a region, if we're going to start getting more oversight on contracts and how, at least to understand the difference between low bid, design build, CRM, because they all have pros and cons. But I think design build has been proven to be an incredibly successful one. I wish we'd see it on more of our projects.
Any others?
And Jeremy, next time you come back, I remember we had a ADOT meeting down in Sahuarita, and the presentation on what the needs are against what the funding is, it was mind blowing. I mean, I don't remember if it was in the billions of dollars, but I think it was the shortfall. So if you can find that again with that type of an update, because, the needs are there, right? But if you're talking about landscaping or death, as you brought up, that's where you have to make those cuts, right? Or, where the money goes. But I was just stunned on how large the need was if we were going to get the roads or keep the roads to a decent condition index. And it was mind blowing. So you can include that maybe the next time. I think it would give some clarity on how difficult the lift actually is.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chairman Jose?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I don't know if I'm just here as a token or I raised my hand several times, but others spoke before me, but that's all right. I just want to say thank you for the presentation, good information. And you brought back some memories of me to the Sunset Road project. I don't know, 6 years ago or so, whatever, when they were first doing all the work on there. And there was an area, an archaeological area that was very significant. And we were called to there, and the evidence that my understanding that people came from around the world to look at what was found there. And I say that, but that just solidifies how unique this area is to civilization. I think it dated back like 4,000 some years or something like that. And that's why it's so important to us. And I agree in part with some of the comments that were made. And the I-19, it runs through the Thorn Automation. It runs through Thorn Automation. And thank you for sharing what you shared, because that's right. I mean, we the Thorn Automation do some work with MAG as well too. And I'm telling you, man, if PAG could learn a little bit from MAG, I think we should watch what they're doing, because they're moving. They're moving, but they're working together and they're making things happen. And that's what I was going to say. And what are we doing? What are we doing as this association of government or this regional transportation authority? What are we doing in terms to advocate that? You all advocate for your regions wherever you go, to the state or to the federal, wherever. But do we have something in our toolbox that we can also advocate for what we do here? Whether it's our jurisdiction or not, but it's in our area that we all come to, we should be advocating for that all the time. Gila River, just a couple years ago, and it's been a long time in the making, have been going to the federal government, have been going to the state to ask for funding for I-10 that goes through Gila River. And then they were appropriated, $90 million a few years ago and something like that. but that didn't come overnight. And that included us, other tribes as well, advocating for them. So we're advocating for each other's, but I don't really see us doing that here. And we need to do that. We need to unify and advocate for each other's. I don't disagree that I-19 it needs some work on there. I drive it all the time. But you're right. If you look, and you probably know this better than anyone else, you have the statistics and the data on how many accidents have happened in that particular area. And what happens when that road shuts down? It impacts other areas of our cities and towns and people wanting to get home. And we don't really have any other objectives but to just to find a way to go on the old Nogales Highway. Or the other day there was an accident and traffic was, I couldn't even get out of the casino because traffic was backed up so far. And our director of public safety was saying, look, if you need to get out, you need to get out now because traffic is getting really, really, really bad. And it was really, really bad. And I think, unfortunately, I think 2 lives were lost in that accident or something like that. You can't put a price tag on someone's life. So it is congested out there. Y'all know it. You've all seen it. And what are we doing about it? When we have a responsibility to the citizens of our area, to the citizens of Southern Arizona, what are we doing to try to improve that? We need to roll up our sleeves and talk together instead of sitting around this table arguing about what is my city and my town going to get. Because we're not doing that. We're not doing that good enough. And that's why I was excited about, planning and so forth like that. But I kid you not, when I talk about PAG, I'm going to be honest with you. People laugh at us. Other areas laugh at us. I'll say, oh, yeah, you guys are going through some challenges, right? Yeah, we are. But we're going to come out of it, and we're going to come out of it stronger, I hope. And that's not upon me. That's upon all of us sitting around this table. So thank you for your presentation. Look forward to more.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moore. Really appreciate it. Did you want to add anything else, Mr. Ortega? All right, anyone else? Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I appreciate all the comments and look forward to moving additional items and more information sharing and strategy planning at these meetings. Item 8 is adjournment. We will be adjourned. I really appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
See you in November. Yeah. See you before.